I just want to commence, and I'm sure the Treasurer would join me in extending our deepest sympathies and condolences to the families and the friends and the fellow serving officers of the 4 police who were tragically killed. This is a terrible time more broadly, but for these families and for the Victorian police family and for police officers all over the country, and I know their families would be feeling the same way, this is just an awful tragedy, a terribly dark day for that police force, and our thoughts, our prayers, our sympathies are there for all of them, but also our thanks to police officers serving all over the country. It's a dreadful and terrible reminder of the dangers that you face every single day. You step up every day. You stand between us and that danger every single day. And we are deeply grateful for your service, deeply grateful for your sacrifice. And to those families who are knowing nothing other than terrible grief today, we stand with you as much as we possibly can, and we hope that provides at least some comfort to you. And we extend also to the Victorian Government our appreciation of the work they're doing to support those families. And it is a very, very, very sad day. More broadly, today it's an opportunity for the Treasurer and I to give you an economic update and a progress report on some of the important programs that we've been putting in place over recent weeks. We have always been fighting this battle on 2 fronts. We have always been fighting it on the health front and on the economic front. Both of those issues have been considered equally as we've dealt with this issue from very early on, and that continues to be our focus, as that will be into the future. We are getting, obviously, good news on the health front. Yesterday, with just 4 cases, a rate of growth of 0.22%. Those sorts of figures were unimaginable weeks ago, and they are being achieved now because of the patience and discipline and efforts of the Australian people right across the country. And we thank you again for your patience and the way you are going about your lives each and every day as Australians. It's a credit to you and it's a credit to our country in this difficult time. Tomorrow I'll be providing with you an update with the Chief Medical Officer on the effective rate of transmission figures that I first raised with you with the Chief Medical Officer a week ago. This modelling work, which is being updated on a weekly basis, will give you a further indication of how we're travelling this first week down into that 4-week process that the National Cabinet flagged as being the period of time in which we'll be assessing our performance and looking at how we can start easing restrictions in that 4-week period. So we're 1 week down almost, and we're making good progress, and we can report further to you on that tomorrow. That also involves making good progress on things like testing kits, personal protective equipment, respirator supplies. The status of those and the supply lines are in place, and they're strong, and that's enabling us, I think, to make a lot of progress. We are on the road back, and that is demonstrated by the measures that we've already taken. And we're on the way back to a COVID-safe economy as well, which is what we have to achieve. We are building the protections for this COVID-safe economy in the areas that I've mentioned, importantly in the area of surveillance, I should say sentinel testing, in the area of industrialising our contact tracing capabilities and our immediate response capability to outbreaks wherever they may present themselves. We have moved on elective surgery. States are moving on schools, and I welcome that very much. The schools changes are a very important step in how we reopen our economy going forward, and most importantly to ensure children are getting the best possible education. And we are, in 3 weeks, as I said, we'll be moving on those baseline restrictions after considering that further information from the health advisors, and states also are already moving where they've gone beyond the baseline restrictions in scaling that back already, and we expect to see more of that in the weeks ahead. But let's not get complacent while our numbers are good. One number that is never good is the fact that 75 Australians have passed away. And as sad as that is for those families, let's not forget that in countries that are smaller than Australia, like Belgium, 6,262 people have died. In the Netherlands, 4,068 people have died. In Sweden, 1,937 people have died. If you look at the fatality rates as a proportion of population, in the United States it's almost 50 times higher than Australia. In France it's over 100 times higher than Australia. In the United Kingdom also just under 100 times higher. In Germany it's over 20 times higher. In Switzerland it's over 60 times higher. Denmark over 20, Norway 12. These are all sophisticated, developed economies with good health systems. This can happen in Australia if we're not careful, and that's why Australians and our governments have been so careful to balance the needs to get our economy back to a COVID-safe level so it can support people's incomes and we can return to higher rates of growth into the future. Now, in terms of getting our programs in place to support our economies, we are making good progress. The Treasurer will update you on those key support measures on accessing super, on JobKeeper enrolments and cash flow supports to businesses. There has also been an unprecedented ramp-up in the public service in responding to these programs. Some 3,000 extra staff have been surged in the Australian Taxation Office, and they will soon be approaching some 50,000 enrolments a day processing, which is a great achievement. At Service Australia, they're getting close to those levels of 50,000 claims processing a day also. They're currently at around 40,000 a day. Some additional 5,000 additional staff have been surged into Services Australia, and on top of that, another 3,000 have been redeployed both within Services Australia and across the Australian Public Service to be part of that effort, which is today, just before this press conference, has now processed some 587,686 job seeker, I should say, and related applications. That is more than we do in a year. And that has been an extraordinary effort from those services. And I also want to thank the patience of Australians for the way they've been engaging with Government Services Australia. The outstanding claims we have now, 80% of those have only been extant for around 2 weeks. And we will get through those, I think, well over the next week or so. But I want to thank Australians for their patience in engaging, whether it's been with the Australian Taxation Office, the businesses and others, as well as those dealing with Services Australia and Centrelink, and their patience. They understand that these claims are at historic, unprecedented levels, and their patience is helping those staff get through those claims and achieve these highly ramped up levels of claim processing, which means we can get that support to Australians quicker and in the days ahead. The Australian Office of Financial Management has now succeeded in raising over $40 billion. The AOFM issue since last week was $19 billion, has a planned issuance of $11 billion this week, and they've already done $5 billion this week so far. So we will be over $40 billion, and 2/3 of that in bonds and 1/3 in notes. And the AFOM has indicated that trading volumes and pricing out to around 12-year bonds are returning to more normal levels. Now, our ability to raise this sort of finance in these sort of markets, I think, says a lot about the standing of Australia in these financial markets and the creditworthiness of Australia, and this will be critical to ensure we can continue to provide this economic lifeline to Australians. We're fast approaching the date in May when the first JobKeeper payments will be made to those businesses, and so I commend the AFM on the work that they are doing to ensure we meet those targets. For these arrangements to work, though, it can't just be the public service agencies who are stepping up to the mark in processing these claims and these arrangements. For these arrangements to work, we obviously need continued strong cooperation from the banking sector and from the superannuation sector. Now, the Treasurer has been working closely with the banks, meeting with them last night again and also again today. And I am aware that there has been some frustration amongst businesses in particular in accessing bridging finance and with banks. We are aware of that. I have no doubt the banks are aware of that as well, and we need to be addressing that early on in this crisis. The bank's decision to pass on the cash rate reductions and to provide deferments and waivers of various arrangements for businesses and individuals is very much welcome. But that needs to be continued. It's important the banks stay up to the mark here. I am concerned at the increasing number of of stories we're getting, and those issues, I'm sure, are being raised directly with the banks. But we need those turnaround times to improve. These banks know their customers. They know these businesses. They work with these businesses. They are there to stand by these businesses in their time of greatest need, and that is now. And so they know their history, they know their trading performance, they know what they're capable of doing, and when it comes to the JobKeeper arrangements, they are very straightforward when it comes to businesses' impact on their turnover, and there's a further instrument today which the Treasurer is pursuing which will make that even more clear when it comes to the delivery of the JobKeeper program. Finally, while there remain important immediate challenges for us to address, the COVID-safe working environments work that is being done through the COVID Commission and together with the Minister for Industrial Relations, the rollout of all of these programs, the adaptation that businesses themselves are doing, which has been extraordinary. We also must look to the recovery as we are, and we're looking afresh at all the work that is being done over the past decade, but we are looking at all of those important reform documents that have been prepared by groups like the Productivity Commission, the Shifting the Dial report, which went well beyond issues that relate at a Commonwealth level and significantly to reforms that can have an effective and sustainable and strong recovery on the other side of the coronavirus. So we will take the opportunity in the months ahead to work through all of those arrangements. The COVID Commission is engaged in that process, Treasury, of course, and the government more broadly, but also engaging with the many partners we're working with at the moment as part of the broader COVID response, the states and territories through the National Cabinet, the excellent working relationship we've been establishing with the ACTU. These are all important relationships being forged during this crisis, which we believe can be put to work for the broader economic recovery piece that will be there. But it isn't a matter of just dusting off old reports and or old submissions that have been made to the government and just bowling them up again. That's not what we're doing. We are looking at all of these things with fresh eyes, with very fresh eyes, with a view to what the post-COVID economy is going to look like globally and domestically, and see how these can best help Australians get back on their feet, support their incomes, grow the businesses, and have a business-led recovery that will put Australia in an even stronger position in the future.